Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be showing how to make manual migrations using the popular persistence library Android Room. So in case you didn't know, Room is a persistence library that is used to communicate back and forth with a SQLite database. And a SQLite database is most often used as a database for Android applications. And Room just communicates back and forth between SQLite and your actual application. Uh, so you might be wondering about what migrations are. So migrations are ways of modifying and changing the database to reflect changes or updates that you've made to the Room entity classes. So they're a way of updating the database to reflect your application. And there's three main types of migrations. Um, so there's automated, there's manual, and then there's test migrations. In this video, we'll be covering how to make manual migrations. And basically, I'm just going to go through a simple app and detail how to make manual migrations. So without further delay, let's get into it. So over here, I have a simple app here. What I did to create this was go to new project, select empty activity, go next, give it any name you want, and then click finish. So once you have that built, we can add some stuff to the application. So since we're starting from basically scratch, so I've already built this, but I'm gonna build it along again to show you how to do this. Um, so first, let's start out with the model. So we have a vehicle class. A vehicle is entity here. Now we need to make this an entity in our actual database. And in order to do this, let me see. In order to do this, we need to use the entity tag like so. And then we say table name. So we're basically converting this class into an entity in the database, meaning we're converting this class into a table to be stored in the database. So we're setting the primary key of that table to be mapped to the ID field, and we'll give it a column name of ID and annotation of not null. So not null basically means that this field cannot be null under any circumstance. It has to contain some sort of value other than null. So now we can give the remaining class a name as well. And this one, I also like putting not null. I like being very specific. So if it shouldn't be null, if the name shouldn't be null, just make sure it's not null. This helps eliminate some migration issues that you might run into when using Room. So now that we've got the annotation set up for our entity class, we can head over to the app database. So once you have your application built, create a new package, click on new package and type database. Go to the database and create a new class called app database. And over here, we're going to create an abstract class called app database, extending Room database. And on top of it, we need the database annotation from Android Room. We'll give it the version 4. So when you first start out, you'll have to start with version 1. But since I've already built this application to some extent, I'm just picking up where I left off. So that's why it says 4. In your case, it would probably be 1. If 1 doesn't work, try 2, meaning you probably ran a migration. So that version number would be incremented by 1 for every migration that you run. So let me just finish typing out this um, class. So in order to access uh, the vehicle table in our database, we need a DAO class. And what we're doing here is creating a method to get the vehicle DAO class. So the vehicle DAO class is a DAO class that gets the vehicle table and maps it to the vehicle class object in our application. So it maps those two entities together. So what we have to do is create a new interface called vehicle DAO. Give it the DAO annotation so that Android Room knows that this is a DAO interface. And we're just going to type a simple query here. Select from query. So this is a simple get all query. Basically get all vehicle records. And let me just speed this up. And this is basically select all from vehicle where the ID equals the one that was passed into it. And then we have the insert query. So the insert query is for all objects. So it'll be ... and vehicles. In case you're wondering what this ... is, it basically means that you could insert vehicles like this. So insert all, vehicle 1, vehicle 2, vehicle 3, and so on. Basically saying you can append unlimited amounts of elements here, or you can just stick to one, and this will work as well. So you can update one, you can append or insert one or many objects into the database. Next, we have the delete annotation. Oops, don't do that. Delete and vehicle. So basically, delete the vehicle instance that is passed in here from the actual database table. Once we have this set up, we can see now it's good. We've imported the right class. Now we can move on to our migration. So when we're setting up Room, we always need abstract database class. We need a DAO if we have a model. So we have a vehicle model, and we have a corresponding DAO class, DAO interface for each model. So for each model that you build, you'll need a separate DAO. Once you have that, you hook it up to the database. So entities, vehicle, and let's say you add a new class, let's say plane, then you'd have to add plane.class into the entities, this array. So once that's set up, we can create a migrations package inside the database package and create a migration1 class. Inside this, we're going to run some migrations. Basically, we have to create the database first. And in order to do that, we need to use the migration class, migration 1 to 2. So in Android, how migrations work is that they're given labels, basically the starting point and the ending point. And as you see here, it starts from version 1, ends with version 2. Then we need the override annotation and say public void migrate support SQLite database exec SQL create, and we're just going to create the table first. So since this is a manual migration, we're taking control and not letting Room automatically create this table in the database. We're explicitly defining that we need to create this database or table in this migration. So that's the difference between a manual and an automated migration. Manuals migrations allow more flexibility because you get to choose what happens or the changes that are to be done in the database. But they're less convenient because you have to actually type out everything that needs to be done in the database side. But on the plus side, you have more control. So once you finish typing this out, create a table where, oops, this is not the one. This is not the one. Basically, yeah, this is the wrong migration. Sorry about that. I earlier created a table called fruit. I've deleted that, but this is our starting point. So migration 2 to 3, starting from 2, going to 3, create a vehicle table, ID, give it columns of ID, which will be the primary key, and name, which will be a text field. Now we can give it another migration. So this migration will be um, regarding how to actually, no, let's do something like this. Let's say you wanted to add a table. Um, let's say you want to add a table to your you want to add a column to your table. So now once we run this migration, our database is at this current version. So version of our database would be 3 instead of 4. Now once we get here, let's say we wanted to add a new field to our vehicle class, so we'll call it model. Strand model. Once we created this model class, we'll have to manually update or create this in the corresponding database table. In order to do this, we'll need another migration. This migration will add the model table to our database, model column to our database table by using alter table, add column, model, integer, make it not null, and give it a default value of 0. Now, the reason I'm not running this is that we might run into errors when we attempt to do this, but I'll run it nonetheless. See what happens. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's saying we need a getter field, getters and setters here. Let's see if this works. Okay, works on that end. Let's see if the inspector loads up. It usually doesn't load up, but if it does, it will be a plus. Yeah, it's closed. We can try adding a debugger process. Anyways, so what's happened is now the model table or the model column has been added to our vehicle database table. Now let's get to the final topic, which is how to delete a column. So deleting a column is a bit more tricky because there's no explicit way where you can define delete column. What you have to do is recreate a new column with the column that you wanted to be gone from the new column. So we can see here we're dropping the vehicle table, and then we're saying vehicle ID and name. So no, do not include a model. Let me see this. So basically, do not include model. And I've left out an important point here. In our main activity, we need to run these migrations. And how we do that is by using an async task. Async task execute, and we'll say this. And here we need to use room.database builder, get the application context, pass in our abstract app database class, give it the name of our database. As you can see, it's example DB. Add the migrations manually. So these migrations are being imported from our migration one class. These migrations are appended to this add migrations method, and then we say build. So we can try to run this. It'll probably give an error. Oh, okay, so let me see. So loaded up fine. Database, let's try to check if the inspector works. By the way, you can use the database inspector tab to get info on your database. It usually has a couple of bugs. It usually doesn't work, but if you run it in debug, I've found sometimes that it works. If it doesn't, no problem, just move on. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to cooperate today, so no problem. So now the way that we apply these migrations is by adding them to this add migrations um, method. So if we don't include a migration, it's not automatically going to be run. It can't detect this 4 to 5 new migration that we defined here. We need to explicitly state it in this app migrations method and then say build. So, yeah, I just wish this would work. So, yeah, let's just run it. We'll see what happens. 4 to 5. So now we're dropping the table and then we're recreating it without the model column. So it ran fine. Let me see if we can attach a debugger. It says it's loading, but yeah, that's how it works. So in this, I hope you learned something from this. Basically, to create a table, this is how you do it. To alter a table, this is how you do it. And to remove a column from a table or drop a table, this is how you do it. So by no means is this an extensive tutorial, but just a basic um, tutorial on how to use manual migrations. They certainly have their place. If you're doing complex changes you certainly want to go with manual migrations because automated migrations might not do the changes the way you want them to. So they have their place. The downside is that they require explicitly stating the migration, so it's more work up front. But yeah, it's a circumstantial tool that you can use. So thanks again for watching. I'll include a link to the source code for this app so you can check it out. And I'll also include a blog post for this later. I can't guarantee that I'll get it done by the time this video is out, but I will include a blog post for this certainly. If you have any comments or criticisms, please include them in the comment section below. Thanks again for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe if you found it helpful. Thank you.